Big guy to bring down.
Again, quick tempo, and picked off at the 1-yard line. That is Watson out in front. Snead to protect him as well. All the way for the touchdown. Unreal.
Wow.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? It's Friday, September 16th, and this is KCSN Update, your daily video and Chiefs content from us here at KC Sports Network. And that was a memorable one last night. Chiefs 27, Chargers 24 as the Chiefs move to 2-0 on the season and steal one away as rookie 7th-round pick Jaylen Watson had a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. And that's after the Chiefs pretty much not playing their best football on the offensive side of the balls, especially. And we're going to talk about that with Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. But first, hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, go ahead and follow and subscribe there as well. We appreciate your support and following what we're doing here at KCSN. And again, we're going to get to Trevor here in a second, but first we're going to do a quick word from DraftKings. Kansas, the wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is officially live in Kansas just in time for football season. That means betting legally on same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, and more anytime and anywhere across the Sunflower State. To celebrate, DraftKings is giving new Kansas customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $5 on anything and get $200 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700. Must be 21, physically present in Kansas. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus issued as free bets. One early win token issued at opt-in. Moneyline bets only. Deposit and wagering restrictions apply. Eligibility and terms at DraftKings.com/Kansas on behalf of Boot Hill Resort and Casino. All right, now we welcome on Pro Football Focus's Trevor Sikkema. Trevor, I know how Chiefs fans are going to be pretty split on how they feel about that game, but at the bottom line, Chiefs eke it out 27-24 over the Chargers. Feel like they kind of stole one when they felt like the Chargers for a lot of that game played better than the Chiefs did. But I want to get your top 3 takeaways from that game last night. But what was your overall just initial reaction to watching that game as the rest of the country was since it was in primetime?
Oh, man, it was awesome. I mean, we look at the over-under for that game. I think it was at 54, maybe ended at 52, and we were very close to that. And there's a good argument to say that there were a lot of points even left on the board, right? When you talk about all of the fourth down decisions that we thought Brandon Staley was going to make, going for it, being more aggressive. He wasn't last night. Put a lot more faith in his defense that he did last year. And, even with the Chiefs offense, yeah, they were humming. They scored enough points to win the game, but I felt like they could have eclipsed the 30-point mark, even with the game script and how it was. So it was a really great game. Everybody talked about, in the pregame, that it felt like a playoff atmosphere, and it did. That felt like a playoff implication game, whether it was Justin Herbert kind of like gutting it out through the injury or Mahomes working magic, getting out of the pocket to score that unreal touchdown, right? It just felt like there were so many moments where, all right, good chance we see these teams play again once we get into January. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, chapter 1 of Chiefs Chargers in 2022, I don't think disappointed. It gave us plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was surprised the game was close. I think for Chiefs fans, they just don't like watching Mahomes and the offense not just score every time they possibly want to. And these kind of have to remind, the other guys, I think it was Marty Schottenheimer used to say all the time, the other guys are on scholarship too.
Right.
The other guys are pretty good. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, a healthy Derwin James. Is fun to watch as a football fan. These guys were getting after it up front. Now, what was your top takeaway from the game last night? Because there's a lot of storylines coming out of that one. A lot to talk about, a lot for particularly the Chiefs offense, because it didn't feel like they had a lot of answers, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But what was your number one takeaway?
All right, so a couple of them kind of go into one another. So it's a little bit of a story here. I'll start out with the rookie class and just how much the Kansas City Chiefs are getting out of this rookie class. George Karlaftis, Jaylen Watson, obviously with the interception that was a major turning point in the game. Leo Chanel. Then you even had guys like like Brian Cook, like Joshua Williams, like Sky Moore, who didn't play a lot on their respective sides that game. But you could tell are already getting involved in things. They're active on game day. They're playing special teams. These are guys who are already contributing heavily to this team and in a way that is visibly positive. I remember going back to draft weekend, we at PFF, Mike Renner, I should say, has a draft guide that he puts out. No team in the NFL drafted better to how PFF graded these draft prospects than the Chiefs did. We were blown away with what it felt like pick after pick after pick. It was just steals of the draft for where the Chiefs were getting these guys. And that's not even mentioning Trent McDuffie, who had a fantastic week one before he got hurt. So you're looking at these guys in the rookie class, and we had no Trent McDuffie last night, but 77% of the snaps for Karlaftis, 68 for Watson, 29 for Chanel. And you just see these guys contributing at such a high clip already, which look, there's Ian Beckles. He used to play interior offensive line, and I'm from just south of Tampa. And so I would go on his podcast all the time. And he used to play in the league, and he would tell me all the time, because he knew I was a draft guy. So he would kind of poke fun at me, and he'd be like, Trevor, just going to let you know, rookies are supposed to suck. That's it. And he would tell me that all the time. He's like, you were learning so much. You were trying to figure so many things out on the field, off the field, in life, in the game speed, what you're supposed to do, what your opponent's going to do. There's so much that you were taking in when you were a rookie. And he would tell me all the time, jokingly and also kind of not jokingly, rookies are supposed to suck. Well, nobody told the Kansas City Chiefs that, because they are getting something out of this rookie class, and a lot more than something. I should say a lot. And that's going to be, to me, an X factor for them continuing that deep postseason run, getting these wins, potentially getting the number one seed, and maybe being the team at the end that hoists the Lombardi Trophy.
That's good stuff, man. And we had talked a little bit about after the draft, because Kent Swanson, Craig Stout, Matty Lane, the guys on KC Sports Network do a lot of draft work as well. We saw you at the Shrine Bowl. We were studying Isaiah Pacheco, and those guys that we had a chance to sit down with before the Chiefs took him. But, I remember when I was at the Chiefs, I had, it was Kiana Martin at the time. I actually had her on a podcast a couple weeks ago and talked to her about that. She's at MLB Network now. She'd gone to the 49ers and was their team reporter for a number of years after she left, helping us out at the Chiefs. But I remember her doing a project with us where we had her charting every snap play. Now, there's probably programs that can do this a lot easier now. Back then, 8 years ago, it was by hand with a Google sheet, but had her chart every snap played every week by every drafted rookie in the NFL, because I had this inkling that, and it was the year that it was the Mitch Morris, Marcus Peters, Ramik Wilson, DJ Alexander, James O'Shaughnessy, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, who's still down in Tampa doing his thing. And Nacho's awesome. One of my favorite dudes, but they were getting so many snaps, and I was trying to do this content regarding snaps equal value from the personnel staff's mindset. If they're on the field, they're a valuable player, a valuable resource that we brought into this organization. I was trying to contextualize the Chiefs are getting more value out of their rookie class as rookies than any other team in the NFL. So we charted all of these snaps. And I say all of that to say it was one thing to do that back in 2016, 2017, around that time. It's a whole nother thing with where the Chiefs are at, trying to go win another Super Bowl, to have another rookie class that I don't know how it's going to end up. I mean, we're 2 weeks in. I don't know how that's going to compare to other teams around the league with the number of guys, but you're right. They're getting so much snap value, whether it's on defense or Josh Williams or these guys who 4 core special teams guys who are still contributing. They're out on the field in situations that might not be, out there like Karlaftis chasing down sacks, or Jaylen Watson intercepting and return for a touchdown. But these guys are contributing for a team that is, a favorite to go and try to win another Super Bowl. It's just a completely different situation than we saw years ago with John Dorsey, and Brett Veach and his staff have to be absolutely thrilled about what they're getting. And then for a Western PA guy in Justin Watson to get the big touchdown catch, I'm sure Brett Veach was absolutely loving everything about last night, Trevor. But what else just stood out to you? What was one of the other top takeaways that you had besides the rookie class? Because what a debut to remember for Jaylen Watson.
No,
we can do an entire podcast on Jaylen Watson. I can't imagine that feeling that he must have had.
It was awesome. And watching the interview afterwards, he was doing an interview with NFL Network. I cannot remember who is interviewing him, but they referenced a story about how Watson said when he was drafted in the 7th round, he ran out of his house and just started sprinting up the street because he was so excited. And the question was, did you run faster when you were on the pick 6, or did you run faster on draft night? And he kind of laughed, and he's like, yeah, actually I ran faster on draft night because the pick 6, I was gassed, man. Like I was already tired. I was running on fumes. So it was funny. What a moment for him.
Actually,
Yeah.
Yeah. And before we get into the second takeaway, I want to ask you this, because this is the nerdy things that I think about. You get a little bit inside the brain of when I watch a play like that, because of all the circumstances. And a lot of people are going to make a big deal about Gerald Everett, the tight end, asking to be pulled out because of how tired he was with how much tempo that the Chargers were playing in last night. And we talked about it on the postgame show with Craig Stout, who charts the game live, and how many different times they were going tempo, and really felt like, for Brandon Staley making some of the decisions that he's made, it felt like he was uber conservative in that game last night compared to what we had seen from him in the past. But the one thing that stood out to me about the Jaylen Watson interception was right before that play, right before that chunk play that they got to Everett, where he got it in the flat and then ran down inside, the 5 or wherever it ended up, is that Gerald Everett was gassed, but if you saw Willie Gay running on that play, he was either hurt or he was gassed. And I turned to Kent on our live show and I was like, Willie Gay is out of gas. Like, they are exhausted. So when I saw the Chargers go tempo, I didn't see before the replay that Gerald Everett was trying to come out. I saw a Chiefs defense that needed to take a timeout or something, because they were exhausted. And then you see the Chargers go tempo, and then they bring Willie Gay on a blitz. He gets around the running back, which makes the throw due to Jaylen Watson the way that he did. And I think you're talking about James Palmer from NFL Network, who did the interview with Jaylen Watson, because we had James on our postgame show. The audio was kind of out of whack. We were trying to get him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually came up and said hi during he had his cell phone out when he was on our postgame show. But the communication process, this is the nerdy stuff I think about. The communication process for Steve Spagnuolo to relay it to Nick Bolton, who's got the green dot, to go. There's so much happening, because not only did they call a blitz during a offense's tempo, they got that play call in, happens very, very quickly, but they must have recognized that Willie Gay, as tired as he was, could probably go north and south and maybe make some sort of an impact compared to being out in space and covering. And I really want to talk to Spags about that process to get that play call in that quickly, knowing they were going tempo, and then ultimately what it became. You can give all the credit in the world to Jaylen Watson, but Willie Gay affected the throw. And not only did he affect the throw, he blitzed on a tempo play inside the red zone. Like, the communication to get that play call in is what is the process that I want to know about, because it ended up making all the difference in the world, and the play that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a fantastic assessment of the situation by Spags, and I think knowing his players really well, right? Because it goes back to what you were saying with Willie Gay. You look at him, he's gassed. Chargers are going tempo. There's nothing you could do about it. Would you rather him be sitting back trying to play in coverage, or would you rather have him not think at all and just go at the line of scrimmage? Now, you kind of got to know your player well enough to make the right decision there, but he opts for the blitz, and it was a bad throw by Herbert, right? It was miscommunication. Everett was absolutely gassed. It shouldn't have been a pick six, but if you wanted to say to yourself, well, it shouldn't have been a touchdown either. Like, I'll tell you on most plays that I would agree with that. So either way, I thought it was the right decision, whether it was the ball falling in Watson's lap or not because of that errant throw. But I just think that is, to your point, a really nice sign of knowing your players well and what they can do in situations. And that's why you press these guys in training camp, right? I mean, like, that's why you have these guys run drill after drill. And I know it's not the way that it used to be with 2 days and getting guys exhausted and seeing what they're like at the end of the energy level, if you will. But still, that's why you put these guys in these situations, not just to make them tougher, but also so defense coordinators and offensive coordinators know what they can get out of you, know where they can put you in the best situations when you're in that, hey, clock's against us. Hey, we can't make a sub. Hey, we need you to stay on the field and do this. So I do think that's a really great observation. I didn't notice Willie Gay as much because I was focused on Gerald Everett. Because I saw him the second he caught the ball, he's tapping the helmet, and then all of a sudden he's turning around. I was like, oh boy, this isn't going to go well. But it went well for Chiefs fans. I'll say that.
Yes, that, again, memorable one. And now every Chiefs fan that was at that game, and every Chiefs fan obviously watching the home opener, it was the 50th anniversary of Arrowhead, so they had all kinds of cool stuff going on. There's a lot for people who were at that game to be memorable for, and Jaylen Watson just goes down in Chiefs history, Chiefs lore, as having that play on his first game. Very similar to the first game that Marcus Peters ever played in Arrowhead Stadium. I didn't even think about that until right now. It was against the Denver Broncos in prime time, and he had a pick six on Peyton Manning in that game to open up his career at Arrowhead Stadium. So not to put that on Jaylen Watson for what we saw as Marcus being the rookie of the year that year. But all right, Trevor, what do you have as a second takeaway for us from the game last night?
O-line versus D-line storyline. I was wondering what we were going to have going into this because the Chiefs had the number one graded offensive line according to PFF last week. Now the Cardinals' defensive line wasn't exactly giving them a lot to go up against, but they played very, very well. They played great as a unit. These are guys who are very talented, have a decent amount of time together, and the grade reflected that. They played very, very well in Arizona. Chargers also played well. They were a top 10 graded offensive line from the previous week, and what I wanted to point out is that in this game, for the initial grades that we got over at PFF, Chiefs pass blocking offensive line was below 50. It was 44.8, and the Chargers was 42.9. That just shows you how stout these defensive lines were.
Wow.
I even thought the offensive line still played well. But when you look at Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, 5 pressures for Joey Bosa, 4 for Khalil Mack, but more importantly on the Chiefs side of things, and what I think actually told the tale is you got 6 pressures from Chris Jones. You got 3 pressures from Mike Clark. You got from Frank Clark. Sorry. You got 2 pressures from Mike Dana, so there's so many different ways that the Chiefs can get pressure on you. And to combine this a little bit here, my third point would have been how the Chiefs purposefully played into a offensive game plan for the Chargers that ended up being to their advantage. They wanted to rush the 4 guys that they had up front. They blitzed some, but not a ton. Most of the time, they were leaving guys in coverage. And because of that, they let Joe Lombardi kind of handcuff Justin Herbert a little bit. His average depth of target on passes in which he was not blitzed, so there's more guys in coverage, it was less than 5. Less than 5 yards of average depth of target. We're talking about Justin Herbert over here. So I thought the Chiefs had a really great game plan. We trust our front 4. And this Chiefs defensive line is already proving in this young season that they can really get after the quarterback. And that's something that I noticed that again had success last night, like it did the week before. And because of it, it yielded a passing game plan where I don't care who the other team's quarterback is. If that's the style, if you are forcing people to play that conservative, Patrick Mahomes' offense is going to beat you. They are just more often than not. And so it feels like the Chiefs have a really good beat on what works in the league right now, what they have, the things that they built over the last couple of off seasons, drafting a lot of guys in the trenches to be able to get you pressure, having linebackers with athleticism behind them that you have faith in to either attack the pocket or stay in coverage. So it was points 2 and 3 are a little bit, they go together. So I wanted to mention them there, but it was a defensive game plan with the offense and defensive storylines where the Chiefs defensive line did a great job once again of getting pressure up front. And therefore it yielded a game plan that allowed the Chiefs to have more points at the end of the day. So it's kind of a little combination there of something that they did well. And I wanted to shout out the defensive line.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about one specific player because, there were a lot of people that have said a lot of things, and it nowadays you don't win a football game, everybody's going to find somebody to blame. No matter how much that player is beloved. And you go back to the Cincinnati playoff game, and a lot of people had kind of called out Chris Jones for not finishing some of those plays. And so in games like this, you need your big time stars to step up and make huge plays. And we talked about on the postgame show, Chris Jones, when the Chiefs needed someone to really step up and make a play to make a difference in the game, Chris Jones, the one who stepped up on that defensive line that you were just mentioning and came out and played well. And I know that, for PFF, he's always graded well just because he is a nightmare up front to block.
Yeah.
His size, his athleticism, the way that he moves. Matty Lane talked last night about, it seemed like when they moved him away from Zion Johnson to the opposite side, he actually had a lot more success in the second half of this game. But just as you were watching the game and just from the, I don't say an outsider's perspective, but your voice that Chiefs fans don't necessarily hear all day, every day when they're listening through stuff. So for Chris Jones specifically, just where do you feel like he fits in within the scope of the entire NFL for those interior pass rushers and what he brings? Because without him making some of those plays last night, the Chiefs don't walk away with this win.
Pressure is production. And that's something that I learned from Josh Norris many years ago. He said the phrase disruption equals production as well. Those are 2 phrases that he has said that, it was kind of when I was starting my coverage of football, and I was somebody who was always looking at tackles in the backfield, sacks. And really, when you look at total pressures, those are things that you can count on. And those things are consistently impactful in the game. You look at Chris Jones last year, only 2 interior defensive linemen had more pressures than him, John Allen and of course Aaron Donald. And that's just to tell you how consistently dominant this dude is. Yeah, you want him to be able to finish the play, but it doesn't always happen, right? To quote what you quoted earlier in this podcast, the other guys get paid too, right? So it's difficult to finish that job. Those guys don't want you to do that. The quarterbacks will move. You will get chip blocked. Offensive linemen will sometimes hold you, right? And it doesn't get called. And Chris Jones is just constantly in the backfield. And when you look at where football is today, and there's no easier way to get to the quarterback than if you're an interior defensive lineman and you win right away. And I think that Chris Jones has shown consistently that when you put him at the 3 technique, when you put him at the 1 and you let him just go off, if he's every single block man, he's going to be too much for offensive linemen to handle. I thought it was really weird when they were trying to play him out on the edge, like get him away from being like a 3 tech and an interior defensive lineman. Yep. I get it because they're just trying to get the most out of their front 4, if you will. It's a little bit of experiment. I don't mind that thought process, but I'm glad that they're playing him more on the interior because that's where he's going to do the most damage for you. And look, Aaron Donald is somebody who's racked up plenty of sacks, and he's obviously rare with it. But even Aaron Donald gets to the point where he will make disruption in the interior part of the offensive line, and it is simply up to those other guys to be able to win and finish the sack. It really is a cohesive thing. I think that too often we think of offensive line play as all 5 guys, and we just think it is one cohesive unit. But then when we think about defensive line, we don't think about that as much. We think, okay, these are just individuals. It's 4 individual dudes doing their individual assignment. That's not really what it is. It's still a cohesive unit, maybe not exactly to the level of blocking and keeping guys in front of you, but it is. One player makes disruption, takes 2 blocks to the left. Other guy can come down from the right, beat his one-on-one guy. Boom. He's got a clean sack right there. It's all about working together. So when you just talk about the emphasis that Chris Jones has, that's the emphasis that I think Chris Jones has. He's somebody that you always have to pay attention to no matter what. He's a constant disruptor in the backfield, and no question about it, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game. And he proved it again last night against the Chargers.
Yep. And they needed him. And like I said, it wasn't the prettiest for the Chiefs. A lot that they can work on. They've got 10 days or 9 days now before they go head up to Indy and take on the Colts, who've got the Jaguars this weekend and the Texans the week before. So they're going to be facing a different motivated Chiefs team to come out and play better, especially offensively after that one. But defense did enough. Rookie stepped up, Trevor, like you mentioned. We appreciate your time, man. Where can people find your work before we let you go?
Yeah, everything over at profootballfocus.com. We're doing daily shows every single day on YouTube, 11 a.m. If you guys want to tune into that, we're having a lot of fun, recapping the best news of the day, going over some great stats that matter, some key context for betting, all kinds of stuff. So just hang out with us. Show's called It's Just Football. If you guys wonder what we're talking about, it's just football. So appreciate it, BJ.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. Good stuff, everybody. And we'll have plenty more content for you at KC Sports Network over the weekend, even though the Chiefs aren't playing. Don't worry. We've got you covered. A lot of different voices, a lot of different shows. And yeah, stay tuned. We appreciate all your support.